So when we talk about sampling methods, sampling could be quantitative, which is what I was saying, that we have to quantify, we have to discretize and then quantify, or it could be qualitative. Many classical studies in behavior and animal behavior and ecology were even earlier called natural history studies, where people just went out with field notebooks, wrote down whatever they saw. So Darwin is a classic example. He was not really sitting and quantifying things in the field. He was making observations, he was taking detailed notes, and later he brought these notes back and analyzed them, thought about them in much more detail. And then he took his stuffed birds to the museum, and there he went and did some measurements and comparisons. But most often, he was doing qualitative observations, which we typically now call ad libitum observations. And this is what you are going to begin with. Quantitative observations broadly can be scans in all occurrences or focals, and this is something we are going to talk about in more detail in the next class. Imagine your mother gives you a shopping list, which is here, and you have to go and do the shopping. Okay. And here I will do less talking and you will be taking this up. So imagine this is your shopping list, which includes 6 apples, 500 grams of grapes, 2 kilo of potatoes, 2 cauliflowers, 1 kg of green peas, 1 kg of tomatoes, 100 grams ginger, 5 kg of rice, and 1 liter of milk. Okay. How many of you have actually gone shopping? You've gone shopping and we are in the market. Now tell me, how do you get your apples? For each of these items, tell me, how do you decide which ones to buy?
Price and quality.
Yeah, so quality, how? Price and quality is standard for everything. But
Appearance.
how do you pick?
By judging their appearance, that
For everything? One at a time. Apples. You need 6 apples. What will you do?
Look for look for fresh apples by
So in
judging
this
its appearance and
photo, all the apples look fresh. You will go and ask the shopkeeper, "Bhaiya, chhe de do."
Why
Shopkeepers often
wouldn't
polish
we
apples and keep them.
wouldn't we be asking the price first?
Okay, price. So somebody said price and quality. So let's assume that you are going to ask the price, and then I'm more interested in how you decide which apples to buy.
As somebody already pointed out about the quality, so if I go and buy the apples first, I'll see they are all hard. I mean, they haven't gone mushy and everything. There are no brown spots.
Fine. So will you do this for one apple and ask for all 6?
No, I'll just choose 6 of them and give it to the person.
Okay. So for apples, you choose 6 and give it to the person. If I asked you to get 60 apples, will you pick all 60?
No, that will be difficult. I have to trust the seller who's going to give me 60 apples.
Okay. But will you at least look at a few?
Yes, of course, I will.
Okay. Grapes. How do you buy grapes? Same way you buy apples?
Yes, kind of,
Pick each
depending
of the
on the
500
color.
grams?
No, not each of them, but few of them, and at least look at them and see if the color is like it shouldn't be look like as if these are have been there and kind of rotten, and like the green ones shouldn't have brown spots, or and they haven't gone like uh so at least from the uh
Yeah, pre-COVID times, I used to actually taste them. So can someone be a little more precise about how will you pick these few grapes? Grapes come in bunches. Will you
Ma'am,
pick
they should be firm and
like that? I'll take this much only.
they should be tightly attached to the stems, and they should not be too
No, what I'm
mushy.
saying is, will you will you get only one bunch of grapes from which you have tested? There's
Uh,
an echo
like
coming. I
ma'am,
don't know where from.
okay, if we need like 500 grams, then I will I will taste one two grapes from each bunch. What am I
Right.
gonna buy?
Very good. This is what I was coming to. Okay. Ginger. You need 100 grams. What do? There's a pile of ginger here.
Ma'am, for ginger, I'll just take the bigger ones because I cannot taste it, and then I cannot really tell if it's fresh or not. So I just tell
Bhaiya
them to
100
get.
gram de do. That is
Yeah.
what works, right? What
Yes,
works for
ma'am.
cauliflower? Cauliflower?
Ma'am, for the cauliflower, the white part should be complete white. There should be no spots. Like sometimes
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are
I'm
gray.
not doing a class in botany. I'm asking how you are going to choose your two cauliflowers.
We will ask the
Pick any
person.
two.
No. We will ask the person to check if there are insects inside or not. So maybe break the stem a bit and show it so that they are okay and they do not have
And
they
you'll
are
do
not.
this for both. That is what my question is. You need two cauliflowers. Are you going to check both? That is the question.
If they are from the same group of same group of or bundle, I guess checking one would be enough.
Not necessarily. You need to check both. Just because one does not have worms, the other might cannot be assumed to not have worms, right? No, there would be some individual variation. Okay, how do you pick tomatoes? You need 1 kg. That's quite a few tomatoes.
Looking at each one of those.
Looking at each one of those. Potatoes, you do the same? You need 2
Yes,
kg.
ma'am. For potatoes, we see if there are more birds, then we will not take that.
Yeah, my question is, are you going to pick each individual potato for buying 2 kgs, or are you going to just pick a handful? That is the question.
Pick a handful and see, and individually we'll see, and we will give to the seller.
Okay.
For 2 kg, I would prefer to take most of them with my hands.
What would you do if it was 5 kgs?
For 5 kgs, I will go for like most I will tell the vendor to give me 5 kg potatoes, and I will try to separate the bad ones by myself. Yeah.
Okay. What would you do for rice?
Ma'am, darbar rice.
This, you cannot do that with this. This is why I said you're not going to a supermarket where everything is nicely packed out for you. When you have rice like this, how do you decide which rice is good?
Usually,
Apart
what
from
happens
tasting
is
it
that
of joy, but then deciding to buy that particular, rice from that particular shop, what would you do?
Ma'am, we can pick a wristful of rice from that sack from which we are going to purchase, and we can check for the bugs, and for if they are broken or not, their fragrance. Yes, ma'am, this we can do.
Right. Milk?
For
do you do
milk,
for
we
milk?
obviously see the expiry date. I mean, when it was delivered and everything, it's
Right.
usually like within the shelf life,
Very
and then
good.
we take that.
What do you do for green peas? One kg of green peas is a lot. No?
Ma'am, we'll look the whole pile. If it looks okay, we'll just tell the seller to give 1 kg, but we'll not see each of the peas.
Right. So this is exactly what I've written here, the different ways in which you are going to go and do your grocery shopping. So what we just went through is an exercise in sampling. And please realize that whether we understand this or not, whether we think about this or not, we sample all the time in our day-to-day lives. And for that, you don't need training of mathematics or statistics. You just need some experience. And like you were saying, for tomatoes, pick each individual, for grapes, taste a few. This comes with experience. Grandparents, parents, uncles, aunts, they take you shopping when you're a kid, and gradually you learn. And sometimes you are fooled and you learn better. So there are two ways in which we can count. One is sampling and the other is enumeration. If you look at sampling, as I said, we sample all the time. The grocery list was just an example. When I'm cooking rice, I'll take out a spoonful and check 1 or 2 grains of rice, and I'll decide whether the whole pot is ready. We do this, we've been doing this for hundreds of years. And in Bengal, there's this traditional saying that if you're a good cook, one single grain of rice will tell you whether the rice is done or not. That is a signature that you are an experienced cook. When people go sampling, when people go and count trees in forests, they're not counting each and every tree. They are sampling. And this is one method which you are going to do in a different context, which Anu will take up in how we sample in ecology. One classic example is samples that everybody is now used to the word samples. When we say samples and when we say sampling, often people don't connect the two. So when you are going for a blood test or now for a COVID test, they are taking a little bit of your blood or a little bit of the mucus, and they are doing tests. They are not running this through your whole blood to say what is there in your blood or not there in your blood. So a little sample of your blood, because we are assuming that it's a more or less homogeneous mixture. So if you sample a bit from the veins, you will understand what is there in your body. And again, something that we are very used to these days, exit polls. There, people are asking voters about who they have voted for. And they're doing this for few people in few booths, and then extrapolating that to the population. Often you have discussions about which exit poll is close to reality, which is not, how much they have deviated from reality. And often we see results are completely different from what exit polls were predicting. And then there are now polls of polls, because people try to compare what the different exit polls are saying. So during the election seasons, it's always a lot of excitement, people watching these exit polls and the various discussions. But then again, that is sampling at the level of the population. Versus when we look at enumeration, people are very concerned about health, and many people use Fitbits. They go and exercise, and they take long walks, and they measure each and every footstep. So a Fitbit is enumerating. It's not sampling the rate at which you walk, but it's telling you you have walked these many footsteps today. So that is a classic example of enumeration. In India, we have, I think, the biggest example of enumeration, which has been going on for years, which is the census. I'm sure you know that we have the census of the population. And here, there are people who actually go from door to door and fill in long surveys, talking to people in the house. And from these survey results, you get very, very detailed information about the population. And we actually can say, I still remember when there was, it was in the news when I think the 6 billionth baby was born in the country, something like that. So you could actually count and say that these many babies have been born today, so that adds this number to the population. So the Indian population census, which has been done for decades now, is a very, very interesting example of where enumeration is being done for a huge population size. Then there are examples of sampling and enumeration. A very nice example is the tiger census, which is done every 5 years in India. And this is kind of a summary from 2018, where you say how many camera traps and how many sites, how many kilometers of forest covered, how many wildlife photographs taken, how many food surveys were done. And these are all done through a mixture of volunteers and specialists. So people go into the forests, use traps, use pug marks on trails, and scat samples, all of these together. Finally, you don't see the tiger most of the time. You don't even want to see the tiger on a trail when you're walking. But from different estimates, you collate all of this information and you give that there are these many tigers in the country. So there is sampling of different kinds and then giving you numbers. And of course, these days, everybody is following the COVID trends, where we are giving, 143,252 people have been infected in the US today. So you are giving a very, very precise number, but we have to also understand that this is based on those who have been tested and reported, which means this is always a sample of the population, because there would be people who have not been tested, there would be people who have not even reported. So you cannot say that this is the real number. This is the real number based on tests conducted. And that is why test positivity has now become a very important score, because only based on how many have been tested, you can give the number. The ones who have not been tested will never be considered in this entire pool. So this is another example of sampling as well as enumeration happening in the same study. Excuse me. Now, when we have to observe animals, here is, here are a set of photographs where you can see that there are these langurs who are busy doing different activities. So if I might be interested in the langur, but then somebody might not be interested in the langur species per se, but they might be interested in social behavior in animals. Or someone might be interested in how animals adapt to the human environment and how they interact with humans. A third person might be interested in, say, play behavior in animals. So there, the species is not of interest, but the behavior is of interest. So if I give you this collection of photographs of this langur troop which regularly visits my house, the points of interest could be quite varied. As I was saying, feeding behavior, grooming behavior, urban adaptation, all of these could be themes which could be addressed using the system. Or somebody might be just interested in the model system, langurs. Langurs as a species might be of interest to them. We actually have Dishari here in the class today who actually studies these langurs. So they are interested in the primates. And in doing that, they are trying to address different questions about their behavior. Anuradha is working on fish. She studies guppies, she studies zebrafish. So she uses them to address different questions in animal behavior, like I do with dogs. But then there are people who use different model systems to address different questions. For example, there is Professor Rennie Borges in IISc. She is interested in plant-animal interactions. And she studies different kinds of these interactions in nature. So she's not focused on the model system, but she's interested in the kinds of interactions that happen between plants and animals. So different ways in which ecologists work.